What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big news involving the way the market's moving, talk about what's going on with Tesla moving forward as we have important news, and how things are looking in my personal opinion. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 conference in just 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So as far as Tesla goes, just want to mention that Tesla is looking a little bit more bearish because we got some bad news that came out, and the whole market's also starting to decline because more bad news came out as well. So let's first talk about the news before I break down more details about what on earth is happening. So tomorrow's going to be a very quiet day in terms of data. We just have Kugler from the Fed giving a speech in the morning. Then at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the business optimism report that's coming out, which is very minor. It's nothing too crazy. Then we have the Economic Optimism Index report at 10:10 a.m., very minor as well, followed by a bunch of Fed speakers such as Bostic, Collins, and Jefferson. So it's all just very, very minor reports and then a couple of Fed speakers. That's all we're seeing for the markets for tomorrow. Nothing too crazy in terms of economic data. However, I do want to call out the reason why the market ended up dipping. The first thing is Apple got a big decline. Apple started dipping when this news came out that Jefferies has downgraded Apple as the iPhone sales are expected to slow down. This came out. They're not actually like bearish, technically speaking. They actually raised their price target by about $8, but they're saying they're downgrading Apple from a hold, from a buy to a hold, basically, and they're saying that the expectations for sales are basically too high for the iPhone 16 and 17, and that led to a little bit of fears about sales declining, and also the fact that they're now recommending just holding Apple, not buying them. So that's not the best of news. So that's part of why Apple dumped, which led the market to dip. And then we also got this news right over here about how U.S. crude oil is jumping more than 3%. Because the markets are waiting for Israel to potentially strike against Iran. So just know that the situation goes back many years. I'm not saying it's starting from this whatsoever, but it's very, very intense right now. And if there is some kind of attack, there is a risk of potentially seeing oil supplies being disrupted, and that could lead to a little bit of a shift. And also, the fears could lead to oil going up. So that could affect oil prices even in the US, which could affect inflation. And the market's seeing a little bit more of a negative response to this fear so far. So we'll see what happens with Israel. So that's another very, very big catalyst. The third thing was Cash Carty was giving a speech, and he basically stated that despite the fact that the US economy is resilient, he said that unemployment is at risk of going up. So he mentioned that. The market did not like that very much. That's why the market declined. So in my videos, one day the market could look pretty good, looking like it's trying to pump, and the next day, overnight, some big news could come out, whether it's a new pandemic or whether some country attacks another country. Something can always happen overnight, and things could completely flip just like that. Sometimes that happens. It's kind of like what happened today. So it is what it is, guys. We just have to be unbiased and talk about what's very probable as new pieces of news unfold. Always remember, I'm not really a fortune teller. I can't predict everything that's going to happen. So just keep that in mind. That's why sometimes unexpected moves can happen. So as far as the market goes for earnings, we have PepsiCo tomorrow. So for the data, just remember, we just have NVIDIA's AI Summit having their conferences for tomorrow if you're interested in NVIDIA. And then we have PepsiCo announcing their earnings for Tuesday. And then all the other pieces of data are very minor for Tuesday. That's all that's coming out for Tuesday. We're also going to be watching the Israel situation. But that's it for Tuesday specifically. For the Fear and Greed Index, this is currently at greed. Momentum is at neutral now, starting to slow down a little bit. We'll see if we lose key supports for this to really start slowing. Other factors show that the put and call option ratio is at greed. Still in the middle, not looking that bad, but still, once again, looking for a shift. If this starts going up, this could be because of the fact that we're seeing a lot more shorts piling into the markets. And then on top of all of that, the VIX is still trying to push higher. If it breaks resistance, this can continue to break out. For news about Tesla, Tesla has its robotaxi event on Thursday. I think as we get very close to Thursday, this could start pushing upwards. But as of right now, Tesla also had some bad news and the whole market's declining. So that could slow Tesla down for the next couple of days. So it won't be until like Thursday when we start to see Tesla really improve, Wednesday/Thursday. And for the time being, Tesla is looking a little bit weaker. So there's still a risk of some downside, despite the fact that this event is coming out. But do not worry about the downside, guys, whether the downside continues past Thursday or not, or if we see a massive bounce and a squeeze back up to the higher 200s. That's going to depend on what Tesla announces on the robotaxi event day. If they announce new products, like many of these analysts are saying, if they start talking about a new Tesla van or the robo taxi or even the Model 2. That would be very, very cool, and Tesla could still bounce. So hope is not dead for Tesla, guys. We'll see what happens to the robo taxi event on Thursday. There was some bad news that came out today that caused Tesla to dip. Tesla's top vehicle program manager behind the Model S, X, Cybertruck, and more has once again left the company. This wasn't necessarily new news. He actually has not been like active since like July, but he officially announced that he is going to be departing. So that's very, very important. His name is David Zhang. Huge, huge, huge appreciation for him for his contributions to Tesla and humanity. He basically is a chemical engineer with a background in business and analysis, and he's doing a great job, at least with his career. So I just wish the best for him for his next chapter in life, and we'll see how things go for Tesla. Could this mean that Tesla has like a new development? Because there's been a lot of rumors about how when Tesla has big developments, they tend to lose employees like right before. Correlation does not mean causation. We can't truly say that. We just have to wait for the robotaxi event to see what they end up developing, at least for the much shorter term. There's also some more bad news that Geico has terminated its Tesla insurance for the Cybertruck, just the Tesla Cybertruck, not like for Tesla in general, because they believe it's not really meeting their guidelines. So not the best of news for them. I went over this in more details earlier. For more news, Truist Securities gave Tesla a hold rating. Morgan Stanley's giving them an overweight rating, but then Bernstein gave them an underperform rating. So very, very mixed views. One is saying that it's going to outperform. Others are saying to just hold your Tesla shares. Others are saying it's going to be underperforming. So very, very mixed views of the share price. The price price ratio is declining as Tesla's losing some strength. We tend to see more volatility, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays. We're green about 51% of the time on Tuesdays, and we tend to see more seasonality volatility around 1 p.m. and also around 9 o'clock a.m. So that being said, that's what we tend to see for Tesla. Also, just note that volume tends to be around 65 million, so it's not that bad. So volume is still not that bad for Tesla. But with that being said, guys, what do I see at least for the market moving forward? Now I'm just going to focus on the share prices for all these different companies. So in all honesty, guys, the market is still looking a little bit weaker as we got some bad news involving Israel, involving Apple, and also all the bad news for Tesla. So it's still looking kind of weak here. There's a possible distributive structure that's developing as we have a head and shoulders like structure, and Tesla's continuing to look a little bit weaker. If Tesla manages to bounce, okay, you want to see it reclaim 244. If we get back above 244, we're looking to see if this could get back above 247.75 at the 20 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. If we break both those levels, the 247s and 244s, Tesla could bounce back up to 250 plus. If we can't get back above those, we're at risk of coming down to about 238. So if we can't get back above 244, I think there's a risk of us coming down to about 238. And if that fails, Tesla could be declining all the way down to the lower 230s to fill this gap here, or at least test previous resistance, becoming support. So if 238 fails, look for 235, then 230s are supports. We'll be watching to see which way we end up going. On the 4-hour time frame, we have a slanted head and shoulders like structure, and this is looking a little bit more bearish right now because of all the bad news that came out. So it's not looking that great, guys, especially because of the fact that one of their top managers has left. So there's a lot of fear that's being incited by this news. So Tesla could continue to decline. But even if Tesla declines even more all the way down to like 230 or so, even if that happens, I'm not too scared because what's going to be very important is going to be the robotaxi event. That could still cause Tesla to bounce afterwards. So it all depends on that event. Don't be too bearish. Don't be overly bearish for now. Right now, yes, we look a little bit more weak. We might dip a little bit. Sure, that's completely fine. Let Tesla dip because that could be a very, very good buying opportunity. And we could still be forming a cup and handle. We could be dipping down to fill our handle. Then this could be looking for a big bounce once the robotaxi event is up. That's always a strong possibility. So don't be overly bearish on Tesla. There's still potential in this chart after the robotaxi event. All right. So that being said, I'm not guaranteeing anything about the event. I can't predict what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that there's still potential for Tesla to bounce big time once the event happens. Yes, it looks more bearish and it might test 238 for the time being, but things could flip once we get the robotaxi event news. For SPY, so this was trying to rebound in the morning, hitting 572. We had that gap fill, was trying to push, but the problem was Apple got that downgrade. Apple was slowing down. Then we saw oil going up, and then we ended up seeing some fears amongst the bonds traders because of what Kashkari was saying. So when Kashkari started giving a speech and talking about how unemployment was at risk of going up, the market started declining pretty hard, and that's what caused this big knife down here. So that's why the market's now looking weak. They're using that as the next catalyst. What do I see for the future of this? So it's very simple. We have some levels like this, but you don't even have to worry about those. To be bullish, you just want to get back above 570. That's going to be a reclaim of our 20 EMA. If we get back above 570, this will turn back to bullish. If we're bearish, you want to see SPY continue to decline and lose 565. If that fails us, I think that this head and shoulders will pan out and we're looking for a decline all the way down to about 560. So my prediction for tomorrow is we see 565 and we'll see if we bounce off that or not, but it does still favor downside. Since we now have a head and shoulders that developed, this pump could have kept going, but instead of continuing to go, it got a rejection. So now we have a right shoulder that formed. On top of this, the daily is showing a rising wedge-like structure. If we lose the daily 20 EMA at 566, this is at risk of declining all the way down to about the 560 area. So be very mindful of that, guys. There's still a risk of downside on SPY. So am I promising it? Well, we have to see if we lose 565 for confirmation. If that happens, we will decline more. I think we might test it tomorrow. We'll see if we lose it or not. So that's going to be the big test for tomorrow. For ES, we also have a head and shoulders like structure. There's a left shoulder here, a head up here, then a right shoulder that's forming. If we end up losing 57.25, we're looking for a dump all the way down to about 5700, if not 5680. If we break past 5766, we're trying to bounce back up to 5780. So we'll see which one it ends up being. With the head and shoulders forming here, there's a bigger chance of this potentially declining, so be very mindful of that, and we'll see how things end up going. On top of this, I want to mention that Nvidia is looking a little bit more bullish. It's trying to push up higher. We're looking for basically 128 as our resistance to 130. If 130 breaks, we're looking for 132. 132.5 would be the next level. So we'll see how things go. I think what's going to happen to Nvidia is we attempt to get close to about 130. But if the whole market starts declining even after their event, Nvidia could decline a little bit, get back to about the mid 120s, like 125 or so. So it might try to push hard for 130, but it might reject. So be very mindful of that as red resistance. So give this the time it needs. For Bitcoin, we look a little bit more bearish. If it can't reclaim 62,600, risk of dipping down to 61,800. And we'll see how things end up developing from there. There's a head and shoulders like structure that's developing. This does favor the downwards direction, so be very, very mindful of that. For 61,800, I think we might decline for that, and we'll see if we bounce or not. If it bounces off that, we could try to get back up to 63,000. If we lose 61,690, the 200 EMA, or 61,800, if we lose that, we're looking for a bigger decline to 60,000. So it looks a little bit more bearish. Look for a little bit of a dip by 700 points. We might see this decline a little bit, and then we'll see how things develop from there. For others out there, we have NQ. NQ has to hold above 20,070 to turn back up. We were holding above that. Then for the last, couple of hours of the day, we started to decline. If we reclaim 20,070, this could be pushing for 20,200. If we don't reclaim that 20,000 area, we're at risk of coming all the way down to 19,800. I think the odds are starting to favor that as we have a head and shoulders, and because of the fact that we got a rejection here. So this is looking a little bit more bearish. We were trying to rebound, but now we're back in favor of the bears, especially as we have this gap to fill down here. This is favoring downside for 19,800, so keep that in the back of your guys' minds. For the QQQ, if we manage to reclaim 482, we're looking for 484 as our resistance. And if we lose 480, we're looking for a dip back down to 478 and 475 to fill the gap. My guts tells me that 480 is going to fail and we're going to be coming down to 478. But just to be safe, we'll have to watch for confirmation if we can hold 480 or not. If not, we could be filling that gap to 475, very close to our 200 EMA. So there is a risk of downside because of what's happening with Apple getting the downgrade, the news involving Israel, not to mention what Kashkari said about the economy. So the market's not liking that. It's also affecting tech to some extent. Apple led the way down with the downgrade by Jefferies. We need to reclaim 222 to turn back up to 224. If we can't reclaim that, we're at risk of coming down to the next level towards 220. And if that fails us, I think 216 becomes a stronger possibility. So watch and see if we retest 222. If that rejects, we could be dipping lower. So be very patient to just know that there's a risk of Apple declining. For the rest of these tickers, I just want to talk about Palantir. Palantir is going to be testing 38.5 by tomorrow. If we manage to bounce off that, we could try to get back up to 40. If we lose 38.5, look for a decline for 37.5 as our next level. That's also very close to previous resistance becoming support. So look for 38.5 and 37.5 as our targets. We'll be watching that very carefully. For Supermicro, we're looking a little bit more bullish. We got a very, very big day today as we got some bullish news. It's up 15%. This is because of the fact that it has, once again, been outperforming the market as we're seeing strong demand. And we're starting to see a lot of growth as it's once again outperforming these markets. It's also pushing alongside Nvda. But in my opinion, if we can manage to break past 48, we're looking for 50 as our target. If it rejects here, we're looking for 45, but this is still favoring that wants to get closer to 50. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For Rivian, we look a little bit more bearish as we're making lower highs. We need to reclaim 10.6 though. If we hit 10.6, we could try to get up to 11.2. If it rejects there, we could be dipping. So watch and see if we break 10.6 for 11.2. There's a good chance we try to get back up there. For SoFi, we're looking a little bit more bearish. We hit this resistance at 8.5. Once we hit this, we could reject and start dipping back down to 8.05. If we hold above 8.5, we could try to push, but this is favoring 8.05, our 20 EMA, to be tested for a small decline. For not Rivian, the IWM, excuse me, we have this resistance to watch for at 218. If that breaks, we're going to try to fill this gap at 219. If it's 218 and rejects, we could be dipping back down to the lower levels like 260. We're kind of stuck in the middle, going back and forth and back and forth. I think it's possible what's going to happen is this might try to pop a little bit to make a lower high. And if it rejects off this 218 zone, it could be coming back down to 215. So watch to see if that ends up being the case. Look for a little bit of a bounce tomorrow morning. Then we'll see if we get that rejection. For AMD, we have resistance at 172.5. If we lose that, we're looking for 170, followed by 168. My guts tells me 168 could be tested, so watch to see if that ends up being the case. So be very patient nonetheless. For ARM, the 144 is our resistance. If we reject here, we're looking for a dip back down to 140. If that fails us, we're looking for 137 as our support. If this holds, we could try to balance, but this is kind of rejecting here, so that the odds are now favoring this kind of decline to 140. Eventually, I think 137.5. With this rejection in play, I think the odds are favoring that downwards move, so please be very, very mindful of that. Be very patient, and we'll see how things end up going from here. For other factors out there, we have Coinbase. Coinbase kind of popped and then started dipping. If we manage to reclaim 170, we're looking for a pushback up towards about 175. And if this rejects, we're going to be dipping back down towards 163. So I think 163 could be coming on coin as it's dipping with Bitcoin. So be mindful of that. We're kind of rejecting here. If we don't reclaim 170, we're at risk of dipping even lower. For Amazon, we have 180 as our main support. If we manage to hold above that, we're looking for 182. If we lose that, we're going to be declining all the way down to 178 or below. Now, we also have a gap to fall all the way down to the lower 170, so the odds are favoring the downwards direction. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. With this rejection in play, I think Amazon is at risk of dipping lower, so watch and see if that ends up being the case as well. For Meta, we got this rejection. If we end up losing 582.8, that's going to be our main support. This will decline as well to about 575. Watch and see if we could hold 582.8 tomorrow. We might test that tomorrow morning. If it bounces off that, we could be on our way back up to 590. If we lose 582.8, we're looking for a big decline for 575. The odds do still favor that in my personal opinion. For Microsoft, we're on a decline right now. We need to reclaim 414. If not, we're at risk of coming all the way down to this next gap fill. We could be dipping all the way down towards about 406, and then this will start dipping lower. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. For Google basically has 165 as our resistance. If we don't get back above 165, we're at risk of coming down to where this gap is, towards 163. My gut tells me that 163 is likely going to be coming, so watch to see if that ends up being the case. And be very patient nonetheless. For DJT, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. We have basically 20.5 as our resistance. This is looking a little bit more bullish, but it depends if we could break 19. If 19 breaks, we're looking for basically 20.5. If we don't break past 19, we're looking for 17 as our support, 16.7 to 17. This is favoring upside for 20.5, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. For the VIX, we look a little bit more bullish. We managed to break past the 24 area. We have that big gap to fill above. We could come up to fill that gap if time progresses, and if we end up losing 20, we still have that gap to fill below. So this is still favoring the upwards direction. So we'll see how things end up progressing. For the 10-year treasury yield, we'll see what ends up happening with our 200 EMA. This is going to be heavily dictated by the FOMC minutes on Wednesday, so give that some time. And then the dollar is trying to break out here. If we manage to hold above 102.5 and keep breaking out, that could be bearish for the markets. If we lose 102.5, it could be declining, but as of right now, it's holding up nicely, and that tends to be bearish for us as well. So with that being said, guys, we got a lot of bad news today. A lot of bad news for Tesla, a lot of bad news for the markets, a lot of fear involving Israel. The list goes on. Tesla could decline a little bit more, but don't forget that on the bigger time frames, we could technically be forming a nice cup and handle. Not a guarantee, just a possibility. So if you are going to trade Tesla, just know that there are risks involved in playing Tesla, especially with the big event being the catalyst. But I would manage risks and be very careful. I would not just like YOLO everything into it. I would be very, very careful because you never know what could end up happening with the market, especially during this time of year. October tends to be one of the weakest months of the year. It's also one of the weakest months of the year for Tesla, so just keep that in the back of your guys' minds. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. I will be back tomorrow before the market opens to give you guys another update. I'll talk about what happens with the data that comes out, but until then, please have a great day, guys. Enjoy what life has to offer. Even if Tesla dips a little bit more, it's going to be okay. The main event is going to be the Robotaxi event, so that's going to be the next big catalyst for us. So don't worry too much. Enjoy your day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow morning before the market ends up opening. Thanks again, and peace out.